Myanatmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're beginning with our diving, continuing with our diving into the nectarian stream of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the hidden treasure of the sweet absolute. And we've reached chapter 14, which is discussing the three modes of material nature. And I'm going to do the screen share again. Let's see now, share screen. I'm going to share sound as well. And we're going to go to this screen here. Oh. To share your computer audio, please install the Zoom audio. Oh no. I don't know if I want to do that right now. See, I'm on a different computer. Seems like to share the audio, I need to install something. So, okay, well then maybe we this time then. What happened? Here it is. Okay, so this is where we are. Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. And so this chapter and the previous chapter, they fall under the category of Jnana Yoga, right? Knowledge, the yoga of knowledge, right? And all of these sections dealing with distinction between matter and spirit, understanding the nature of the material plane, understanding the nature of the spiritual plane. These are all under the category of Jnana Yoga, which is a part of the development of Bhagavad Gita, and is also a helpful aspect of Sambandha Gyan, right? For our Sambandha Gyan, developing our understanding of what is what, kind of like background knowledge that helps us to navigate the world, right? And create a stronger support structure for our spiritual practice. That's how we can think of it. Okay, so unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to play Gurudev chanting today. It seems like I have to install something, but I'll be ready for next time. Okay, so we can dive in. So beginning with chapter 14, and maybe we can do what we were doing before. We can chant 10 verses and then go back over the translations. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Parambuya Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajgyatva Munaya Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha Idam Jnanam Upashritya Mama Sardam Yamagataha Sargepi Nopajayante Pralayena Vyatanti Cha Mamayonir Mahad Brahma Tasmin Garbandadam Yaham Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata Sarva Yonishu Kunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapita Sattvam Rajastamaiti Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha Nibadnanti Mahabhavo Dehe Dehi Namavyayam Tatra Sattvam Himalatvat Prakashakamanayam Sukha Sangena Vadnati Jnana Sangena Chanaga Rajaragatmakam Vidhi Krishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tannibadnati Kunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam Tamastvajnana Jamvidhi Mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadalasya Nidrabhis Tannibadnati Bharata Sattvam Sukhe Sanjayati Rajakarma Nibharata Yanamaritya Tutama Pramade Sanjayatuta Rajastamas Chabibhuya Sattvam Bhavati Bharata Rajasattvam Tamaschaiva Tamasattvam Rajastata. Do we have any volunteers to read those translations 1 through to 10? Let's see.
I can try.
Great.
The Supreme Lord said, "Again, I shall describe to you the supreme teaching, the highest of all fields of knowledge, knowing which the sages attained the ultimate perfection beyond this mundane plane. This, by taking refuge in this knowledge, the soul attains to my nature. Then he is neither born in the cosmic manifestation, nor does he suffer death in the cosmic dissolution. O Bharat, I place the seed within my womb of primordial matter, from which all living beings take birth. O Kaunteya, primordial matter is the original womb of all life forms that are born of the wombs of all species, and I am the seed-giving father. O mighty hero Arjuna, the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance born of material nature bind the immutable spirit soul within the body. O sinless one, of these three modes, due its purity, the mode of goodness is illuminating and wholesome, conditioning one to happiness and knowledge. O son of Kunti, know the modes of passion to be the embodiment of desire, born of hankering attachment. It conditions one to action. And, O Bharat, know the mode of ignorance, born of darkness, to be the ignorance of all the embodied beings, conditioning them to delusion, laziness, and slumber. O Arjuna, the mode of goodness conditions and the embodied being to happiness, and the mode of passion conditions him to action, but the mode of ignorance covers his knowledge and traps him in illusion. O Bharat, goodness overcomes passion and ignorance. Passion overcomes goodness and ignorance overcomes goodness and passion. Each mode in turn defeats the others in an unending battle for supremacy.
Nice. Anyone have any comments on these verses we've just been through? It's nice to, like sit back and observe how these different energies, they affect us, right? Moment by moment, day by day, as we go throughout our lives. And it's so how can we say, it just helps us to become more detached, and I'm always repeating this idea of becoming an observer, right? But it's so helpful, isn't it? Just having this awareness. And ultimately, right, we don't need to be slaves of these things, right? These are just energies that are playing out in the environment, and they are engaging with different elements of our senses and of our own self, our external self, rather, right? The senses, the ego, the mind, they're interacting, they're stimulating, and different things are playing out, right? But when we read this, it's just so powerful, right? And purifying, and helps us to become more detached from these things.
I have one comment.
Yes, please.
I find it is totally overlapping with what I'm trying to practice and teach is Ayurveda, the principles of Ayurveda, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and how it is also that, when there's too much Kapha, we're going to waken up that Pitta, which is the heat. So like when there is so much tamas, it's said that, one has to do some action to get some heat, and then, then there's movement. So I think it's also the state of ignorance is also like the sleep state. And then, it's the date, and we have that pitta, like right now, actually, like the sun is coming through. So there is like that pull to action. And then there is that, that sattvic place, which is, when we harmonize all these different forces, from what we eat, how we sleep, and how much action or inaction we've been doing, we are understanding here that we must by all means find the harmony. Turn to sattva, like we can use these others, we can use like some passion, but it's only to not to get stuck in that, because I think in society it's obvious for me that people get stuck in that action part, do and get
Right.
make
Right.
and I make and I do and I create. It's very misleading. It pulls away from sattva. So that's my mini reflection.
Thank you, Gangalila. Anyone else?
I was going to say I had a similar, sort of a similar mini reflection, because I am one of those people who just is always wanting to do things. And, like even when there isn't like any outside pressure, I'm awake, I should do something, and I do. And it's like, I want to do it. And it was really hard because once I got the cancer diagnosis, I realized why I'd been so tired. And when 2 days after surgery, you're feeling better than you've felt in 3 months, and you have more energy, that you were fighting something, like, but I was complaining to Govinda, that, I was taking 2 naps a day, and it was taking 3 hours out of my day. And then I was sleeping full nights, and I'm like, I can't sleep that much. I can't not do stuff that long. It's too much. And he said, yeah, Krishna's teaching you how to just be. And I'm like, that's great, but do I have to just be so many hours of the day? Like, it was really, really hard for me. And that went on for several weeks. It took me so long. So sometimes it's not a matter of looking for the harmony. Sometimes the harmony is sort of forced upon us, and we have to figure out how to accept it. And it's not where it was a year before or 10 years before. And that adjustment can be kind of rough.
Yeah, I think the key word here is surrender, right? We have to learn to embrace and surrender to whatever situations are coming to us. And I was thinking about this the other day. There's been all this discussion about yoga, and when I was in Portugal last week, I had one meeting with like a group of very like high class yoga practitioners, and and they wanted to talk about Bhagavad Gita, so we had an interesting discussion, like an overview of Bhagavad Gita and the development of yoga. But one thing I've been reflecting on is how, like when we are, like we don't have to go out of our way actually to practice spiritual life. Like it'll just come to you, right? And it's all about how we are responding, right? By applying the teachings of yoga, right, in our day-to-day lives, then this powerful inner transformation will take place automatically, right? So like that example, that you can't do, right, what you want to do, but then learning to embrace that and adjusting yourselves to that with some positive spiritual vision. Like, this is the medicine that's coming to, this is the lesson that's coming to me right now. And there are other lessons coming to other persons. So let me try to learn this lesson here and now. And one other thought that comes to mind now, just, in relation to this discussion of these modes of nature, that, one thing we always want to keep in mind is that this is all pertaining to the Saguna plane, right? These are 2 words for those who aren't familiar, something for the notebook, Sagun and Nirgun, right? Sagun means like with the material qualities or material modes of nature pertaining to that plane. And Nirgun means without these qualities, without the mundane qualities, and also transcendental to that plane, that is transcendental to that, has no touch of those things. And that Nirguna plane is also sometimes referred to as the plane of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, right? So there's Rajas, Tamas, Sattvas. passion, ignorance, goodness. And then there's Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. And that ultimately is what we are aspiring for. And what's very cool about that plane is that the rules all change there. So in that plane, we can try to just engage everything for Krishna. In a sense, everything becomes more simple. We can try to engage everything. So like, for example, if someone is very much affected by the mode of passion, right? And they want, as Marie is saying, want to do all the time, right? In Krishna consciousness, in the plane of Shuddha, if we're approaching the plane of Shuddha Sattva, rather than just like trying to repress that, we can engage that, right? Engage your mode of passion in the service of Krishna, do for Krishna, right? This is the nature of bhakti, right? Very holistic and encompassing. Nothing is rejected. And then also the plane of sattva, goodness, right? Our tendencies for purity, honesty, cleanliness, structure, discipline. We can try to engage all of those things. Aren't the be all and end all, but we can try to engage them in the service of Krishna, right? Then the mode of ignorance, I don't know if we can engage that in Krishna's service. I have to think about that one. Well, we could think when we're going to sleep, right? That's the mode of ignorance. I'm going to sleep so I can restore my body, right? So I can serve Krishna, remember Krishna more. But that one would be a bit more tricky to engage in service. Anyone else have any comments, or should we go on? Do Lal Prabhu.
Yeah. I used to, I can remember like it's still, like this large part of my life as it came into like adulthood, I guess, and with work and stuff. Like the only way to get by was to like consume a lot of Rajas and to like surf the waves of Rajas and other people's, and I can only say like I can see that now just from having some experience a little bit with Sattva. And it was like a challenge to even consider like how even to access like Sattva to get through the day, like consuming so much caffeine and crazy rock music and like just really passionate energy and like living there and feeling like there was no way to like get out of that. Like it was like a whirlpool or something. And just recently in like the past few months or whatever, just putting on bhajan and really having a connection to scripture and like coming into like my heart place. Am I finding like some other way to really interact with the environment and be like really in, not like in my body, but like really generating and contacting some energy there. But I guess I was just wanting to share that like now that I can kind of see that in a different way, like in the world around me, sometimes it feels kind of scary. Like what used to seem like natural. And just be like super driven, and causing kind of some chaos and tension and like harnessing, like when I would harness like anger and all this stuff just to get through it. Yeah, so I guess I feel like there's a developing sensitivity in reflecting on it. And so anyways, yeah, just, I don't know, I guess I was just wanting to share that.
Very nice.
Just struggling, I guess, sometimes. Yeah.
It's very nice. And yes, that's something we'll experience, as we are progressing, that we become a lot more subtle in our sensibilities. And as you said, things that just seem normal for us before, they will seem very gross and unappealing at present. So yeah, and when we see that within ourselves, we observe these reactions, then it's, we can recognize, we may even think, I didn't realize I was making progress, but I am. It's just going on automatically. Anyone else, or should we go on?
I have a question.
Yes, Radhanavati.
So, you know how in our heart, you know, there's the super soul or the Paramatma, and there's us and the real jiva within the body. And it's said that, like, you know, our first mistake is to think that we are the doer, you know, because actually Krishna is the ability in man or human, and that we are supposed to be we're witnessing all these things that our body's going through, our senses are going through. And for us to think that we are the cause of the results of our actions is supposed to be like not right or a mistake. Because like when Arjuna, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, when he was with Krishna and he's like lamenting, you know, oh, these are my relatives, I can't do this, you know, this is so horrible, heart-wrenching. But after a while, Krishna says, hey, I understand how you feel, but it's already done. So you might as well just do it. So I'm thinking about this in my own insignificant life. And I'm thinking, so if I'm the observer and I'm not really the doer, and the results of my actions, that I'm not the cause of the results of my actions, then where does the free will come in? Where does when I make a bad choice in my life, it all goes to hell for a while. And then when I make a good choice, it turns out okay, or halfway. When it's already like I'm, you know, I'm not the cause of the results of my action. I'm just trying to grasp that. If you can help me.
Well, yes, it's true that we are not the cause of you know, actions we're not the cause of, what's the way to put it, of any activity, right? But we have desire, right? We have the willing faculty, right? And how we express that willing faculty, you know, that, you know, and how that you know, that is one factor, you know, and how we're not, okay, let me rephrase it. We are not the final cause, right? Or the only cause for various actions in the environment, but there is an element of our own free will, right? You know, it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, you know, what is it, 4 or 5? Maybe someone can remember the verse exactly, but it mentions 4 or 5 different factors are behind everything that takes place, right? And our own free will, that is a part of that. You know? And of course, like, you know, we desire for something to happen. Whether or not it happens, that depends on other factors too, but there is an element of our own free will. But for me, like, especially coming at this from the perspective of Krishna consciousness, we're not so interested in results, actually, but we're more interested in the quality of our consciousness, right? This is really what Krishna consciousness is concerned with. What is our inner intention? You know, what is our inner desire? What is our inner consciousness?
I'm sorry to interrupt. What was the word you were using, Vishaka Didi? I just didn't hear that. It's not so much about what?
It's not so much about like actions, as it is about our consciousness, right?
Okay.
Because the question was about how are we implicated? How much are we responsible? How much is our free will involved in various events that take place in the environment, right? But okay, that's one discussion. But what's really more pertinent to us is consciousness, right? And the Paramahamsas, the exalted, the liberated souls, they're not looking at the world of action so much, actually. They're looking at the inner consciousness behind, Like, I'll give you one little example that's coming to my mind. I told this a few times, that one gentleman who wanted to take second initiation from our guru, but he had a beard, and our Gurudev said, "Oh, well, you have this beard, and normally you should be clean shaven if you're going to do this." And then that gentleman, he said, "Oh, well, I can immediately go and shave it off then." And then our Gurudev said, "Well, now I see you're not attached to the beard at all. Then it's okay. You don't need to do it. You don't need to shave." And I really love that, So it's like that, like regardless of what happened in the external plane, like where was our consciousness? What was our intention? That's what we want to transform. That's really what's fundamental here, right? So, how can we correct our intention? How can, regardless of whether there was a good result or a bad result, like where is our consciousness? Where is our intention? That to me is more to the point. And this is kind of radical, this is going a step higher than where general religion or conception of Dharma is concerned with. Right? But where is your heart? Where is your intention?
So Diti, in our life, there's no shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh, I should have done this, coulda, woulda.
I would say,
especially all you guys are still so young. But when you get to be older, like me, you start reflecting on different things in your life and think how things has come, happened. And you in your mind, you go, if I only did that, then that would, if I should have done it this way, then that would have. But then I was talking to devotee and they were saying to me, no, it all is going to happen that way, whether you planned it or not. You're going to suffer anyway. You were going to suffer that much anyway, whether or not you did anything about it. And that for me in my mind is so hard to grasp, because my husband has a nickname for me. And my nickname is, this is like, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I'm making my confession. He calls me Paula Planner. Because I plan, if you come to my garden, you can see how I plan everything. I mean, I can't help it. It's like, I feel like if you don't plan things, you're just going to fail, So when I think about my life and all these things that had happened, I went, wow, if I should have done it this way, then this would have happened, and I would have been in a better, or my kids would have not suffered so much, or this person wouldn't have done, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I'm sorry to say this.
No, this is beautiful. At the risk of sounding very cheesy, we want to try to live in the eternal now. And all, how we can channel this type, because of course everybody goes through these mental cycles, regrets, but the way in which we can channel that is, what lessons can I take from that to change going forward? Like what did I learn from that so that I can now become a better person, so that tomorrow I can make the right choice, right?
Yes.
And that was necessary at that time. That was a learning moment for me.
Yes. And also I look back and I think to myself, well, it was my good or bad karma, whatever, that fructified in this life that I had to burn. But at the same time, when it said that what was going to happen to you is going to happen no matter what you chose, it's that's so hard for me to, because anyway, oh, okay, never mind. That's okay. Sorry.
We can also remember, forget the past that sleeps, right? And ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee in progress we shall call. and I think zooming out and seeing our thinking of ourselves as living within eternity, right? And all these things, if we zoom out and think this life we're going through now is like one little point within the eternity, it is all nothing. Next lifetime, all these things, they won't matter at all. What to speak of, you know, far into the future. These things won't matter at all. You know? So really, we want to try to, what we're doing is gathering. We're gathering lessons for our eternal journey towards the infinite. That's what we're doing. Marie's been waiting. Please speak.
Well, I'm also a pathological planner. And what I've been learning is that it's not helpful to go into the should'ves, could'ves, would'ves, but sometimes it can be helpful to go into the cans and wills, where I'm now taking the past suffering and using it to make the plan. And that usually what I have to do is plan to be open. And that's the really hard part after 4 decades. But like I was saying, I had that resistance to resting. That whole last couple months, you know, when I knew I had cancer, and so like my brain knew, okay, my body has this fight going on, but I still didn't want to give space to try to stay healthy. And then finally I realized I was resisting the plan for my own teaching, and that was making me even more tired. So I could have, and as recently as a couple years ago would have, spent hours and hours and hours berating myself over making myself tired by worrying about how tired I was. But instead I'm just like, okay, so I'm going to write myself a little prayer to say when I lie down for a nap, and I'm going to plan 2 nap times a day, and I'm going to hold myself to at least actually taking 1 nap. But I don't have to sleep. I just have to get in bed, say that prayer, and lie still for a while. And it was just, I got in and I'm like, okay, this is the time I'm available for whatever needs to happen for my healing. And sometimes I'd just lie there and chant for an hour and a half. And other times I would fall asleep immediately. And other times I'd, end up playing on a puzzle game and my brain wouldn't rest, but my body would at least be still for a bit. But it was just, I was available. I made myself available, and then just sort of went with the flow for that period of time. And while I was still exhausted and I still wasn't getting as much done as I wanted, I was able to get more done, and I was more focused and felt better about the stuff I didn't get done. So I think it's when you take it and you say, okay, this was what I did that didn't work. How can I adjust my angle going forward so that either I'm not struggling so much, or that I'm ending up in a better place, or I'm more in alignment with where I should be? and making that change be part of the plan going forward, instead of worrying about whether you could have had a better plan in the past. That's what seems to be working for me, at least.
Thank you for sharing, Marie. Anyone else have any comments on the subject? Shall we continue?
Dandos Vishaka Didi.
Dandavad Ramananda.
Dandos everybody. Yeah. May I say something?
Sure, yes, please, Guru.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Great to be on this call. Actually, first we have to realize, like Gurudev told us many times, read Bhagavad Gita, because most of people are confused. We are a soul. We are, like Mahaprabhu also said, we are Jivera Savrupa Nitya Krishna Das. Because we have to focus on a higher level, because we depend on Guru and Krishna's mercy. Otherwise, we are so tiny. Every wave is pulling us here, there. I listen to Guru Maharaj and Gurudev. They're so merciful. See, we have a higher protection, guidance. All we have to, like you said one time, see, we have to hang on. If we can tolerate the speed and realize it slowly, it's just, it's so many things are happening. Actually, Mahaprabhu told, see, this planet is dying. This planet is dying to save everybody. See? So that's why Guru Maharaj says, so back to God, back to home, back to God, back to home. He's so merciful. We have to focus on higher stuff, because there's a trivial thing be always there. So we have to focus on higher. Then we can get out of here. Otherwise, this planet is tiny mustard seed. We kind of go on and on. It's just never ending. Yeah. Yeah, I listen, Guru Maharaj, he was telling even we are planning in the womb. See? So we have to get away from that, because mind is active. We are conscious. Yeah. So just these 2 cents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramananda Guru. Always absorbed in our Guru's teachings. Any other comments from anyone? Gangalila, I thought you might have something to say on this topic. Maybe she's busy now.
What did you say?
I said I thought you might have something to say on these topics.
It's a really wonderful topic. I'm thinking a lot about it, actually. And where I have an observation I could share is that talking about this whole free will and what could have happened sort of thing, is that sometimes, for example, in my neighborhood, there's a little harbor and there is yacht, and they are owned by people who are wealthy. And then there is some boats, and they are less fancy looking, and they have to be sailed and everything. And sometimes you see them, maybe even a little dirty, and you see somebody sitting on their boat, and maybe they even sneak in living there because it's officially not allowed, but they may just have to do that. And they're sitting there like the king on their little island, kind of almost content or looking content. And then walking, 2 meters down, there is a fancy millionaires, millions of dollars yacht. And that person is maybe on his force, scrubbing, being angry and entitled, and makes me think of, no matter what, like his karma was actually, you on all fours scrubbing, no matter what. Even though he was like his whole life, he just worked, he became a millionaire, he has something to say, he owns a yacht, he's kind of full of all these active ideas, but yet he's just like a miserably scrubbing away. Whereas somebody who may have not really dedicated his life to making all these millions has this little piece there and takes that little piece. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's something I'm observing. Like, you think you have free will kind of to create a better life, or you're using your will to have like a not so good life, but then you have the life Krishna designed for me to get the lessons I must learn. Yeah, that's my reflection on that.
Nice, Gangalila. You reminded me of this one verse, Labdva sudorlavam bahu sambhavante manusham artidam anityam api hadira tornam yate tanapate danumitya javam visheya shaya kalu sarvatasyam. It's a verse quoted often by our gurus, saying, emphasizing the rarity of this human birth and how we should take advantage of it to endeavor for our spiritual welfare. But it makes this point that material happiness and sense pleasure will come automatically, according to our karma. So why waste your time endeavoring for it? But rather you should endeavor for your spiritual welfare, So like in those examples, someone who's dedicated their life to like earn money and be happy, they're actually miserable. And then someone who hasn't even tried, they're very happy. So, yeah. So be peaceful with all of that, right? Make your effort for your spiritual life, because that requires some effort. Nice.
Yeah, and that requires like us in our spiritual life, that effort requires us to be on all fours and scrub, but with a different mood. We're not like miserably scrubbing away, but we're happily on all fours, scrubbing that ignorance off and polishing it and get into our sattvic selves, right?
Very nice, very nice. Yeah. Sweet struggle.
Well, I feel like it definitely is. Whatever happens in this life is, of course, like what it says in the Bhagavad Gita, also the fructified karma from our past life, something that has come to full fruition and it's having to be done, But I'm just thinking in my mind, I was thinking, so where does our free will come in? If Arjuna was already predestined to win with Krishna on his side, he is an example of us who was thinking, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. And so anyway, yeah, we do have our karma.
I mean, it is a very tricky subject matter, this subject of free will. It is a very tricky subject matter indeed. But I mean, the way that I like to see it is that like the karma that's coming to us, it's like all the things that are playing out in the environment, different actions that we're carrying out, they're all just symptoms, right, of our inner desire and consciousness. And so then the karmic reactions that are coming to us, they are as a result, right, of what's the inner state. And another thing is that, if you're taking this example of, like the Kurukshetra battle, right, then everyone participating in that, depending on their consciousness, they will experience reactions in different ways, right? So if someone is engaging in that battle in the way in which Krishna is recommending, like doing it in a spirit of selfless duty, then there won't be any reaction actually, right? If there's any reaction, it will be positive reaction. But if someone's engaging in that battle in a spirit of aggression, right, or envy or whatever or along those lines, then that would classify as karma, right? Then there will be some reaction. But it's definitely a tricky subject matter. And we can't use the fact that everything is being approved of by the Lord, right? We can't use that as an excuse, right? Gurudev mentioned like a man beating his wife and saying, oh, God's allowing this to happen. It is his will. And Gurudev saying, it's not doesn't work like that. So we can't use these things as an excuse, right? Krishna's allowing these things to take place because this is our learning. This is the school of learning, right? And we all need to learn our lessons. We need to have the opportunity to exercise our free will in order to be corrected, right? And to learn. But it is a tricky subject matter. And if we're going specifically to the Battle of Kurukshetra, then every case is individual, right? The Battle of Kurukshetra, we can say it was a battle of dharma, right? It was to remove adharma, right, in order to correct the dharma, to establish the dharma, right? To remove the unrighteous and to establish the righteous. So, in a worldly sense, it was a necessity, to establish the good. Anyway, I don't know if your heart feels pacified.
Yes, thank you very much for clarifying.
Well, just some thoughts to consider. But I think it's very helpful for us on the whole to really try to live in the here and now, and there is no lamentation. There's no use for that, right? But we want to be in the here and now and try to collect what teachings we can from every situation that presents itself to us. And no matter, and this is another thing that can encourage us, right? No matter what we have done or what's happened, whatever mistakes we've made, nothing will deny us the opportunity to surrender in the here and now, right? And that's all that Krishna is looking for. And that example is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Shukadev is telling to Maharaj Parikshit's been told he only has 7 days left to live, right? And Maharaj and Shukadev is saying, what's the problem, right? 7 days is more than enough time to prepare yourself. And the trees, they're living for so many ages, and what is the use of that? So many entities are living for so long. What is the use of that? And then he tells this analogy of this Maharaj Katvanga, this king, who was told that he only had a moment left to live. I'm sure you've heard this story. And in that one moment, he fully surrendered himself to the Lord, and he attained everything. In that one moment of full consciousness, that is enough. Our Gurudev, he mentioned one analogy I liked very much. That he said, when you turn the light switch on in a dark room, it doesn't matter how long the room was dark, right? If it was dark for 1,000 years, if it was dark for 100 years, if it was dark for 1 year, once the light goes on, it's on. It doesn't matter anymore. And so in the same way, in so many things we may have done, and mistakes and whatever it may be in the past, but if now we've come to some awareness, some consciousness, the light's on, that's all that matters right now. That's all that matters right now. And if others around us are not sympathetic to that, then that's their problem. But we, at least, we don't need to beat ourselves up. Krishna's not going to do that. But now the light's on. Now I've learned. Now I'm living in this now. So we can move forward. I'll close with this one very beautiful verse. Let me see if I can find it. It's in Srila Sridhar Maharaj includes it in Prapana Jivanamritam. And let me see if I can find it. Vapura Dishu. No, I've spelled it wrong. Can you pass me Prapana Jivanamritam? But it's this verse, very wonderful verse, saying like, however my character is known, you know, whatever I may have done in the past, however my character may be known at present, I surrender this whole sense of ego unto you. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, I did. I spelled it right. How come it didn't come up? Yeah, such a wonderful verse. This is by Jamunacharya. Vapura dishu yopi kopi va gunato sani yatata ta vidaha tadaham tava pada padmayor aham adhyaiva maya samarpitaha. However I may be materially designated, however my character may be known, now, O Lord, this whole sense of ego is offered by me unto your holy lotus feet. However I may be materially designated, however my character may be known, now, O Lord, this whole sense of ego is offered by me unto your holy lotus feet. Whatever I am, whoever I am, I'm surrendering myself to you. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's illumination of this verse is the transcendental pure soul's realization of his capacity to offer himself unto the Lord. So we all have that capacity, even if we have nothing else, we have that capacity to offer ourselves at the feet of our Lord. But we appreciate very much, Didi, your sharing with the group, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And very relevant, of course, something that we all deal with, no doubt. Okay, maybe we'll stop there for today. We've had a nice, lively discussion. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Thank you all so much for your wonderful presence and participation. And
Vishakadipuri Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Dandu